Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, I don't know why we're bringing this energy into it. I'm just matching where you're at. And I'm just like...
I don't know. Should we redo it?
No.
Okay.
No. We'll just go in with an interesting energy. You know what? Buffalo is running. And maybe that bleeds over the weird energy sometimes. I don't know.
So. I don't know.
It even bled into like my Strange Indeed stuff last week. So, you know, or a couple of weeks ago when this is out, whatever. So, you know,
yeah,
it's
you were sassy. You and Rima, you were in a place, I think.
Yeah.
It was fun to listen to because it was just a little bit different. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is a different sound, but it's still fun. So
yeah, we'll go
it works.
Anyway, this episode of Run for Your Lives, we are talking about the supernatural horror film Night Swim, written and directed by Bryce McGuire, released January 5th, 2024, through Blumhouse Productions. Kind of why I picked it. This was my week to kind of pick a movie, and aside from some other little connections and cast things, really it's just like we've been giving some flowers to Blumhouse lately. You know, we've always kind of said they're hit or miss for me, and then lately they've been way more hits than misses.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, you know, I've started to really appreciate some of the underlying like themes and stuff that they put behind their movies, and so I was like, let's do some Blumhouse. I want to see what they got going on with this one that came out earlier this year, and it's definitely we'll get into a lot of feelings. It's not their strongest for me, however, definitely had some great moments. There's definitely those kind of like mental and social things that are behind the scenes, those themes that they're playing with. And yeah, I like that. So definitely stuff to talk about, which little tangent, because I think I mentioned it maybe last week or something, that Mike Flanagan podcast. I've listened to it, and it's cool because it's like it's director's commentary with Mike Flanagan. And the point of the podcast is you play it literally as a track alongside while you're watching whatever movie. And so it is a live reaction of Mike Flanagan and the director or directors of the movie he's covering that week, watching the movie in real time, and you play it along. You sync up your movie, watching the movie with them, and then there's like a director's commentary track. And of course, they had the guys from Ready or Not, because it was Ready or Not that he did, and it was cool. So they even said something about that as like, you know, horror is what you make it. I remember picking that up from watching that and listening to that this last week. Where it's like you can take away so many different things, because people will just, you know, write off horror movies as like, oh, it's scary and people die and blood and guts, whatever. But it's like there's the mental aspect of like what are the hardships, what are the human emotions, what are the mental things, what are the hard like, or what are
social,
the human like, and social things,
yeah.
The human stories we're trying to tell. And like Ready or Not, we've covered it, so you know. Was about breaking generational trauma and generational curses and generational cycles. That was really what they were, the behind the scenes. And even those directors were like, if you pick up on that stuff and you really focus on it, then you have that experience. If you don't pick up on that stuff and you just take it at face value, it's still a fun experience. But that's what horror is able to do, is convey a story behind the story. And if you can tap into that, then it can be really powerful.
Yeah, and we've covered some movies on this podcast that have had deeper meanings than just what you see on the surface. And that is one of the great things about horror, is it can put that into it and still give you the blood, the guts, the gore, and everything else that you love about horror. But you can have a deeper story. And I think as horror movies have evolved over the last 10 to 20 years, I think the story behind things has grown a lot more. It makes me wonder what we would have gotten, like with Friday the 13th, that story, if it had been done now instead of back then. Although we are going to be getting a TV series, so I'm interested in how they're going to tell that story of Jason Voorhees. But it is very interesting the way that it's grown over time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Pake, you talking about the track to play when you're watching the movie, I'd really like you and Ben to do Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I want that track because we watched that once in a Zoom party.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would be any good. I think it would just be because you can't play the audio of the movie,
right?
So you sync it alongside.
Yeah.
So it would literally just be me and Ben quoting the movie along with it. That's really all it would be.
It's true. It would be worth anything. But it'd be funny. I think it just brings another level of funny though to go with it. But I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
I've got to check it out. I just haven't had time yet, so I'm hoping next month is a little slower for me, so I can. But have more
it was
time.
Cool. So even though I usually wait till plugs at the end of stuff, but as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that podcast, check it out, because there's some fun stuff. I will say my biggest takeaway, other than that, is the candelabras that are in the La Domus house in the different rooms and the hallways. They had 6 candelabras to use for the entire production. And it looked like that entire mansion was full of them, and really they just have to move them between shots and scenes to make it look like they were all over the house. When really they had the same. It's the same 6 you see the whole movie, no matter what room or part of the house they're in. It's the same ones that were in the last scene, which is funny.
That's amazing.
A lot of really cool production stuff like that. I like the behind the scenes kind of. Open up the curtain and be like, yeah, we had a shoestring budget, and it's amazing that we pulled off what we did with nothing.
But you know what? I think directors get even more innovative or inventive when they're faced with not having a big budget.
Yeah, how many of those things watching that were like, the reason that this scene that people love looks and turned out the way it was is because we couldn't do it the way we wanted to originally, and we had to make do.
So you did it this way, and it's even better because people are really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you have to, with anything you do, with any project that you do. You have to get inventive sometimes because either the budget isn't there or the time isn't there, and you have to rush. And sometimes you have to do more with less. And a lot of these movies that started with very little budgets end up exceeding expectations at the box office. Now, that being said, I don't think that they should make a Marvel movie on a $3 million budget, because that's not going to work. I'm just saying, they're able to make it work sometimes. Yeah.
Which, speaking of that, let's get back on track with this one, Night Swim. I don't know if this one's going to take too long, but definitely some fun stuff to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
We get into all those, of course, our usual production notes and such, so we'll get into that.
Yeah, here's a little information. Was filmed in Altadena, Santa Clarita, and Los Angeles, California. Whenever I see the name Santa Clarita, all I can think of is how angry you are about Santa Clarita Diet getting canned at Netflix.
Same.
It's the feature film directorial debut for Bryce McGuire. It's also based on a 2014 short film of the same name that McGuire did with Rod Blackhurst. I did watch the short film. It's 3 minutes long. It's very short.
Nice.
I can see where they pulled the story from, but I'm still kind of like, really? Yeah. They built a lot off of it.
Yeah.
This is the first film that has been released by Blumhouse and Atomic Monster after they merged. They actually finished their merger 3 days prior to this movie's release.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The budget was $15 million. It grossed $54 million at the box office, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
98 minutes long. Pake, bring us that IMDb synopsis.
You know. A family moves into a new home, unaware that a dark secret from the house's past will unleash a malevolent force in the backyard pool.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I started watching this, I was thinking, does he want to cover this because there's some relation to the gate? Is this like another haunted something? And he just wants to get back to find a kindred character like Terry again?
We didn't quite have a Terry of this movie, I don't think.
No, there was none of that. Definitely none of that. One thing I wanted to point out before we delve into characters is I loved the way that they started with the reflection in the pool. And then the camera rotated. I liked that. I thought it was neat, just the way that they did it. It was very cool.
Fun shots like that are always cool.
Yeah. And there were some other clever shots in the movie, but that if they start with something that clever, you know that a thought has gone into the movie, so it visually might be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was interesting. Just like initial overall. Like I said, it wasn't like the biggest hit for Blumhouse, and it didn't do well critically and even like fans. It was compared to a lot of their other stuff. Like it's not the most highest rated for most people with Blumhouse stuff lately. However, I didn't hate it. So, I think overall it was an enjoyable watch, as much as it could be enjoyable with just its subject matter and what it was. Just me personally, it's more of a personal thing that it was just nothing but high tension and anxiety the entire time. It was just a lot of my personal buttons that it knew how to get to me.
Like what? Being in the deep water?
Yeah, I've already have a fear and anxiety of deep water and being underwater. And then whenever you have the main people being like in trouble being children, that always like heightens my anxiety.
Yeah.
And then there's just like certain things that are, and it's just like, oh, this movie's just gonna make me like hyperventilate the whole time. Got it. I see what we're doing. Cool. Thanks.
So you chose a movie not knowing that it was going to make you.
I mean, I should have. I don't watch trailers and stuff that much. I remember seeing a few things when this first came out in theaters, but like I don't look into stuff much. I mean, I knew what it was. I mean, the name alone it's like it has something to do with like the pool and water, and I knew that was going to be like for me, but. Yeah, so I shouldn't be surprised that it was just constant anxiety and tension the whole time for me, but it was fun.
Oh, yeah, that sounds it. Sarcasm. Okay. Oh man.
So a big old pull of nope.
Which situation would you like to be in? The movie Nope or Night Swim? Which one, Peg? Tell me.
I mean, I guess nope. I'll just go back to town and stay there. Guess you could do that in this movie, too. Just don't go to that house.
Don't go to that house. Yeah. That's one thing, though. We haven't really talked about the characters yet, but I did appreciate the ending, actually. I appreciated the kids at the end. And them being smart to understand different ramifications. So yeah,
it was cool. All right, so yeah, we'll break into it now. I'm surprised that I have my notes more broken up into characters, because at first I was like, it's the Waller family. That's what we're doing. Like they're just all together. You can't. But then as I really was separating it to see if I could, I was like, oh no, I really can break them up. At least Ray Waller like kind of has his own section. I think Eve really has her own, and then the kids, Izzy
together.
And
I have
Elliot
them together.
Kind of have their and then some other random notes about some other people that come by. Plus the pool itself, the Temagami.
The Temagami. It has a name. I knew that because when I did a little bit of research, it's like the Temagami. Okay, that makes it easier. To refer to something, with a name. So Temagami is an indigenous word of Algonquin origin, and it means deep water. So that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I went through this with Ray as my main character, but then it also switched to other people, but mostly it was Ray. So I feel like he has to be our starting point for this one.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Which, yeah, I mean, I do love me some Wyatt Russell, so always happy to see him. So that's great. I've been seeing him more and more in like different things. Like he's really starting to branch out and do a lot of stuff. Because I think my introduction to Wyatt Russell, it has to have been something else, but I can't think of it. But I think the first time I saw him was Black Mirror. He was in Playtest. Black Mirror episode Playtest.
Yes, I remember.
I think that's the first time I saw him.
Yeah. He was in a show called, I think, The Lodge or Lodge something.
The Ledger, the List. I don't know. I think
it was
no,
the
maybe it is the
Lodge.
Lodge.
The
Maybe
Lodge. Yeah, so he was in that, and I knew that.
Because I might get it, mixed up with another show. But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, never watched that though. So
Me either. It was an AMC show, and I never got into it.
Yeah, and he's been doing some other stuff. He was good in what was that? A baseball movie, funny enough. I can't think of the name of it right now, with him and Austin Emilio and some other guys. But yeah, that one was fun. And then he's in the MCU now. He was in Falcon Winter Soldier. And I've just seen him pop up. I mean, Monarch. We kind of talked a lot about Monarch.
Yes,
and we were
we
on one
did.
episode of that to see him play the same character as his dad in different
I know.
timelines
So cool.
of the show was really cool.
Yeah. We're getting another season of that, I believe, so I'm excited about that. Interestingly, you mentioned Austin Emilio, who of course played Dwight on Fear the Walking Dead.
Yes.
Well, Gavin Warren, who played Elliot, actually played Dwight and Sherry's son on Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay, I did not get that far in the show, so
neither did I, but I knew it existed.
I wouldn't have recognized him. Yeah, because I was like, wait, he was in. I was like, what? Was he one of the oil kids? And it's like, oh no, I had stopped watching by the time he showed up. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a situation. Yes, I will never be a completionist when it comes to everything within the Walking Dead universe because I will never finish Fear the Walking Dead. It's not going to happen.
I'll never say never, but
I don't
highly unlikely.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, here, Wyatt Russell. I enjoy seeing him on my screen. He's great. Here in this movie, he plays Ray Waller, who is I guess former, even though it seems like his MS took place and the degenerative stuff kind of started kicking in while he was getting ready for the current season. He was at spring training, they mention, whenever he got his diagnosis and started going downhill pretty fast. But so in here, though, former professional baseball player, battling MS, so trying to find a place to settle down, rehab, kind of deal with things, what's going on, see what can be done, spend the time he has with his family. That's kind of where we pick up with them. And
yeah, I should mention, watching him in this movie and seeing this depiction of MS, my dad had MS, and so while they were sitting at the doctor's a couple of times, it took me back to some of those updates that I would get from my mom about the different treatments, because my dad was taking bee pollen at one point. For certain things, and he had steroids, and they were just interferon was another one. There were all these different treatments that he was on, and so I really felt for Eve in that situation, and for the kids, because I know what it was like. Yeah. Because I think I was in my early 20s when he was diagnosed and not living at home, but it was really sad to go home. You know, I wouldn't get home that often, but when I did, I would see that my dad had regressed more each time that I went home. It was very sad. And so I felt so much for their family. And Ray, when they were even driving down the road and seeing fathers playing with their sons, I just, you could tell that he was, really sad and depressed about that, because dads want to play with their kids. Like, it's just what you want to do. And it just, it touched me. This movie touched me because of that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're looking at different houses, and then, they get to this one. And that pool is just so rude, making people fall in all the time. And he falls in reaching for a baseball he sees on the tarp, which is weird because it's like almost like the same baseball that he crushed at the school, like later in the movie. It's kind of this weird, like, it has this like effect where it knows how to pull people personalized to them.
It does. It definitely does. Although I will say this. Why on earth did that little girl think she had to go get that boat in the middle of the night?
I know. I saw the same thing. I was like, okay, the boat's there at the bottom of the pool. It'll still be there in the morning. Go to bed.
Yes. Why are you doing this? I couldn't believe it. I'm like, there's no need to get up.
Mm-hmm. But kids, that's the thing about kids, is they're very impulsive and they get an idea in their head, and it doesn't matter if it logically makes sense. If they're like, I'm going to do this thing, then they do that thing. That's how kids' brains work. So it makes sense.
Well, we've said a million times that people should listen to kids. So it's really kind of two different things to
absolutely.
say. Yeah. Listen to kids when they're being coherent.
But also, they're very impulsive creatures that definitely are learning how to make logic work in life.
Yes. Yeah. It's not a simple world.
Mm-hmm.
They're figuring it out a little at a time.
Yeah. But yeah, as he falls in, it has this baseball. He kind of has really what it seems like a vision. Mm-hmm. But then as we see more and more, we talk to, we see other characters and learn more about what this entity is. It's almost like it pulls his wish, is kind of what the, Miss Summers says, is, the wish that he has, which is for his career and fame to return and to be able to play baseball again. And he sees himself making this triumphant return to the major leagues after beating his diagnosis, and it's this whole thing, and so that's what he becomes hyper-focused on and kind of obsessed with. Especially after he realizes that the pool has, like, healing properties. And it starts small with the cut on his hand, but eventually, like, he sees, like, the MS, like, is reversing, and he's progressing, and his muscles, his sight, his everything is getting better and better. His strength is coming back, and he's feeling healthy again.
It gives him hope.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, a lot of those early, like, there's the first time they swim in the pool as a family, and, he's doing his little, like, exercises, and they're, Eve is throwing the coins for the kids, and, he goes and, he's playing with his son where he's, like, got the shark fin, and he dives in, and Elliot's looking for him, and then he pops up behind him. It was just wholesome and adorable, and I loved it so much. I was like, this is just beautiful family bonding time. And then I remembered that this whole movie couldn't just be that, and then immediately I was sad and scared, because I was like, in that moment, I'm like, I'll just watch an hour and a half of this family being adorable together, and then I'll just, like, turn it off and be done, and I'll feel good. But nope, that's not what this is going to be, so great.
It's not that movie.
Nope, it was not.
It is definitely a horror, and we saw at the very beginning exactly what that pool can do.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that at one point when they were cleaning the pool so they could get it ready, I was sure his hand was going to get sucked into the hole at the bottom where he was. And I'm like, no, that couldn't happen this early in the movie, but man, I just feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to let myself let go of the title of the movie, because I was like, oh, it only happens at night. Nope, never mind.
No.
Just all the time it can do things.
No, 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 that would make it a man-eater. Which you don't probably get, but it's perfect. You only go out at night. Yeah. It's just a Hall & Oates song.
Oh, I know the song.
You know the song. Yeah. It just made me think, I was just talking about it eating his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said, I thought it was night swim and it would only be at night. And it just made me think about Maneater and all of that.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, is we're having the cute moments, and then it's whenever he's healing, he's getting better, and he forms this connection to the pool and a kind of this obsessive place where I need it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's even before it really takes him over, it's already got that connection to him.
Yes. It got the connection right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. When it pulled him in for the baseball, that is when it got the connection. It read his mind and got his, what his biggest wish was, like it did with another family that we'll talk about a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we learned he played for the Milwaukee Brewers, which was cool, because then I was like, well, how many times did he send Bernie down the slide? Based on the stuff that we saw about him, probably a lot, which is cool. I love that field. And people who don't know baseball stuff is, the Milwaukee Brewers, it's like an indoor dome field. And Bernie Brewer is the mascot. And anytime the Brewers hit a home run, there's literally a slide. From the top of the rafters down to the side of the field. And the mascot goes down the big slide when they hit a home run.
And who doesn't want to do that?
I know, it's so cool.
Who didn't? And you know what? Who didn't want a pool like this when you were a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a pool, not like this, but yeah, I enjoyed pool stuff as a kid for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so talk about his obsessive stuff. He's trying to get back to his glory days, and then we kind of see. It's the background story of this one, like we were talking about. It's a little more subtle, but yeah, we see it's kind of this your passion versus your family, who you are, who you were, that kind of thing, where we see that baseball and his career and his success there was really what fueled him. Mm-hmm. That he was open to, it's not that he didn't love his family.
Right.
But it's just this, he's hung up on not wanting to let go of the past to move forward into what can be something good.
Right.
To where it's just this, but I don't want to let go. I want both at the same time, even though, as we hear, the scene with Eve and Izzy, where it's he talks about all this times, he was away, he was playing a game whenever Izzy was born, his first child was born. And his version of it is, there was this spiritual connection, and the moment she was born, I was up to bat, and then I crushed one, and it's you gave me this power. But then on Eve's side, it's I was alone without my husband trying to do this on my own. And not to blame him, not to throw this shade at him, but it was just it's two very different stories, and he's trying to live in both worlds.
Yeah. I mean, his daughter makes a comment at one point when she and her brother have seen something in the pool. She makes a comment about not wanting to say anything. Mm-hmm. And not only because they won't believe you, but because they're having this time. They're not moving. They're settled in. Even if the pool's haunted, no one's going to believe them. And she just wants things to be able to be what they are. Yeah. She does not want to have to go through any more of that, of what they've been through. All of the stress, of moving. Just like military families are often, moving. Well, this is another situation where the dad's or mom's job is creating this world where they have to keep moving.
Yeah, he mentions, they never really planted roots anywhere because, that's the role of a Major League Baseball player is you get traded team to team all over the country. You've got to pick up your family and move across the country with you. And it's just, that's the nature of the business, and what it is just other people with a lot of money decide where you live season to season. Mm-hmm.
Yes, but you also get a lot of money.
Yeah,
season to season.
Of money.
Yeah.
It seems especially his degree of where he was at and the level he was playing, and he seems to be a pretty famous baseball player.
Yeah.
That like, yeah, I mean, he was definitely being paid exorbitantly well. Like it was definitely a great career for him, and it's not that like they were complaining about it, but it was, yeah, it sucks. Like he's got MS and things are bad, but it is an opportunity for the family to grow closer together and plant those roots that they never had the opportunity to.
And he's pretty young. Like I mean, their kids, they didn't actually give out ages of the kids, but they're young.
Probably, I mean, because Izzy wasn't driving. She's still being taken to school. So probably 15 and 12 or 13.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
So they're not older parents. So for him at his age, which I would anticipate to be like, I don't know, between 35 and 38-ish, for him to be diagnosed at that time, I mean, it's such a life-changing thing. And while he's happy to have time with his family, you can tell that it's ripped away the one thing that he's had that's been a constant in his life, probably since he was a kid, which is baseball.
Yeah. Getting back to this place, and then this obsession and things. And then there's a lot of, this is the part about doing it character to character, is then skip over a lot of important stuff that we will circle back to. But really the next big thing for Ray is we just see that obsession get worse and worse and worse. We get to the pool party with Elliot's team and all of Izzy's friends and neighborhood people and parents and people they knew. It's this we want to be the welcoming family. We never got the chance to be that. So let's be the ones that host the parties, and everybody knows we're the pool house. We're the cool parents. We're this. This is our opportunity to do that. And had this big party. Steroid Shrek. Loved that line. Which that leads to, and I thought they were going to play off of it more. I'll mention it more when we talk about the kids. But, you know, Elliot, the son, has this kind of story as you see him feeling less than. He feels like his father doesn't love, or not that he doesn't love him, but that he's not proud of him, that he's not living up to what my professional baseball playing dad, incredibly talented athlete, successful individual, and I feel like Elliot just feels like he's failing. Like, I'm not good enough at baseball, I'm not strong enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not what he wants me to be. And he just kind of...
There were multiple times where they said, either Elliot or the mom, like, this is your year. Dad said, this is my year. I think it's going to be my year, meaning that he's growing up.
Yeah.
And trying to be the standout athlete that his dad was. And kids sometimes do not fit that mold. They just don't. Sometimes it's a once-in-a-generation talent or a once-in-a-lifetime talent.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Especially when they were at the ball field, and he himself, Elliot, got a hit, which was great. But then his dad kind of overshadows him by getting that long ball that flew and knocked a light out. But that was, again, when he connected with the pool. He was connected with the pool at that time. Like, things were happening.
Yeah.
So where
I was going with that is because we see that kind of going on. And so I wonder... As we talked about with some of these movies, there's a lot that ends up being cut for time and for budget and this and that. To where I wonder if something that was in this movie, was it just for convenience sake of getting one place to the next in the story? And that's, of course, this moment in the pool with the coach's son, Ty.
Yeah, Ty.
Was on his shoulders. And, of course, that's, we're not going to have him try to drown his own son right now because it's like we've got to still build up to that point.
Right.
But part of that is like because we see Elliot is watching from the room, and even though they don't address it and they don't talk about it, I have to imagine, because of where Elliot was mentally, to see his dad take another man's son, another boy, and put him up on his shoulders and let's go do it. Let's, almost as if like, oh, the son that I don't have, here's the talented athlete on the team. Here's the star player. And I feel like, even though, again, it's not addressed, but you have to know that Elliot watching that almost has to feel, kind of slighted and,
yeah,
like, oh, I'm being replaced. Like, oh, Dad's got Ty now as the star player. Like, he doesn't need me. Yeah.
Right. You feel inferior.
Mm-hmm.
And to feel that about a sibling or your parent, the people that are supposed to be in your corner, no matter what, your blood family, it's horrible. Like, for him to see these things. And he's recording the pool. I feel like he's doing that because he just knows something's going on in that pool.
Right. Which, again, I thought that was going to come back, something that he saw, and it never did. Again, maybe it's stuff that was cut for whatever reason, but it never came back, which is kind of weird. But, you know.
I think him filming was to get him watching so he could say, oh, Mom, look, something's happening.
Yeah.
And that's when the pool, during that scene with Ty, is when the pool actually convenes with Ray. Like, goes into his body.
Super, super intense. That was one of the moments in the movie where literally the horror was working for me, where I was like, oh, like, just wide eyes glued to the screen, like, oh shit, what is happening? Where, like, basically, this entity has possessed Ray and is making him, like, attempt to drown Ty and himself. Like, it's just like, damn, that is brutal. And
it's pretty brutal. The whole
and
thing
then we
the whole thing is terrifying to watch.
Yeah, and then we just see throughout the rest of the movie until the end, Ray just being taken over more and more and more by it, which, I was like, well, whatever it is, it has become him, and we're in a whole new, ball game.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Which, Wyatt Russell in villain mode? Hell yeah. Yes, please. More of that.
I'm surprised great. We haven't seen him in a role like that.
I know. Like, again, without spoiling too much, I guess, like, his role with Marvel, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, borders that a little, but not really, but kinda. Yeah, but yeah, no, this is the first time I think I've seen him play just, and again, he's possessed, it's not really the character itself there, but his portrayal of just
was spot on.
Something evil and malicious and dark. It was incredible.
Yeah, he nailed it. I was pretty impressed by how he switched from good to evil. Because he was so good. Like, he was so into his family, but you could also feel this sadness from him over losing baseball and being able to do things. I think it just happens that when things are taken away, not because, oh, I'm older and I can't do them, but because I have a degenerative disease that's robbing me of my ability to see and speak and move and do what I want. Because basically MS does that.
Yeah.
And you can't predict when you're going to have a flare-up, so you have plans, and then all of a sudden the day you plan to do something, you may not be able to use your hands the same way that you normally would. And then another day it could be something else. It was, it can happen like that.
Yeah.
So.
And it gets all the way to the point that, full evil entity to where now he's, stopping his wife and daughter from trying to save their son. He's in this place of, for me to have what I want, for me to have my abilities and my career and this back, he has to die. We have to sacrifice Elliot. And even to that point, like we see with the Summer family, with Miss Summers and I don't know about Thomas, the son, how well he went along with things. We don't see him as an adult in the movie, just mentioned, which makes me kind of wonder, is he even really still alive, or did he not handle things well, and she just pretends that he's still around, everything's fine?
I don't know. Wonder.
Because it almost felt like whenever she shows the picture of him in his military garb, that was almost like, it's almost like a shrine kind of thing, where it's like the folded flag, and like almost like there could have been an urn or something there, like he died, and she's still holding on to, oh, my wonderful son, and look at all the things he's done, and she's living in this other place.
I have this feeling that because, one, we learn that she locks him in his room so he can't go save his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell based on her wanting to go get the boat for him, like, she really was a good sister, like they were close.
Yeah.
And so it was very selfish of the mother to, sacrifice her daughter, Rebecca, for Thomas.
Yeah.
I just have this feeling that she told him the true extent of things at some point, and maybe he decided he couldn't live with it.
Right.
Because...
Yeah. We don't really know. Again, like, he's just gone. But, yeah, either way, we're seeing that now that it has taken over... I want to say Wyatt, but yeah, Ray. And he's kind of doing that same thing. It was like, to get what I want, this is what it is. And then this dark and evil kind of thing that is in you that justifies it. You know, I think Miss Summers is like, well, you know, Rebecca really didn't have many friends, and she wasn't a happy person all the time, and she was sad about her brother, and she was lonely, so it's better, because she loved the pool, so now she's there forever. These kind of things. And
I really don't think she wanted to be Pennywise.
No. But Ray is making those same arguments, at least this evil, entity, this creature within him. We're saying, he's not happy. Elliot's, you see how he is. He feels like he's not adding up to what people's expectations are, and
that doesn't.
So, it's better off because he's a sad little boy, as most kids growing up have those kind of moments where
yeah,
life is tough for a 12-year-old or whatever.
Puberty is just starting to be a thing, and you know that the struggle is real for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have social media going through high school?
Yeah, high school, yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's a different world with kids and social media and all of those things. And not just social media, but the pressures of growing up with everything out there, like posting everything, and just, it seems like everyone knows everything all the time about everyone. Yeah. And they're going to go through that. It's going to happen. Kids are going to be moody. My 10-year-old niece right now I love her, but she's going through this phase where it's like, I said to Rachel, her younger sister, please don't get moody like Sissy when you get to be 10, because I'm not ready for it. But I think...
Yeah, Elliot's... he's struggling just like where he's at and to find himself, but he seems like a really sweet kid. Like, it's not like he's troubled or really having too hard of a time. But again, that's this justification of this spirit, this entity, this thing. So that's where we have Ray is at this point where he's like, sacrifice, you have to make this sacrifice, and I'll justify it however I can, and that way I can have what I want. But, luckily he is, brought back to himself by the power of love. Also, a few whacks with a baseball bat, that can always help.
Yes, good old Izzy. She brought him back. Because this gave, honestly, with Elliot being in the water for so long, it gave the entity time to really infiltrate and take over, so that Elliot really couldn't leave or do anything because the entity had taken control.
Yeah.
So Ray had to make a very tough choice.
Yeah, so that by the end, when Ray is back to himself, we realize, they get Elliot out. He's breathing, he's still there, and they're like, okay, we could get him to a hospital or something. And then this connects, this control you said that this entity has, where it demands a sacrifice. And it's like, oh no, that's not how this ends. I'm still getting my sacrifice for you guys, for either of you to get out of this alive. And so that's, to save his son. That's what Ray does.
He walks into the pool and gives himself to the pool so that his son can be released. Which is a terrible thing again, Ray didn't fall into the pool because he wanted to make a wish and have, you know, all this adventure. He fell into the pool and the entity did the rest.
Yeah.
So then they were just tied together.
Mm-hmm.
So Ray made the only choice that he could.
Yeah. And again, it's that very subtle thing. And there is a theme. There is a, lesson or whatever of this movie. Again, it's a very subtle
moral.
one, a moral. Is this idea of, the sacrifices that a parent will make for their children out of love. And this kind of takes it to where, like, not just being able to let go of your past and let go of who you were and what you wish you could still be, but this cranks it all the way up to that ultimate sacrifice level of where are you willing to go when this is the option given to you. Yeah,
there have been a couple of shows that I've been watching recently that have had these stories, different stories of how mothers or mother figures have treated their children and how different it can be and how the outcome can be so different because of the time that one parent will spend with their child versus someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in this case, the parents, Eve was really the one that was with the kids the most, but you could tell that they really enjoyed having this time with their dad, and they felt so happy. They didn't want anything to happen to ruin the time that they were having. And I just, the sacrifice at the end was, I had a feeling it was going in that direction, but I was hoping there'd be some loophole. But this is a horror movie and things don't work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. So obviously with that scene there, and the that wraps up my notes on Ray. That's kind of, where we end with him.
Yeah, I don't really have anything, more to add. So I think we can move on to Eve.
Yeah. And again, go through a lot of these kind of quicker and fill in some gaps. But yeah, Eve, again, has gotten used to moving around place to place, taking care of her kids, but also, she hasn't, the money that he makes from baseball, she's been able to afford this kind of like stay at home, take care of the kids, do these things. And now she's looking at, okay, what does life become if he's gone, if we don't have him, or even he's not playing anymore. He's got medical, even before that, he's got medical bills we've got to take care of. He's not making money from playing baseball anymore. We've got to make ends meet. So she's working at the school that the kids are going to, or at least Elliot, the middle school. And she's just working in admin and stuff there in the office. But she's also like doing like online school and classes and such. She's looking to go into special education, which very important. Props to that. That's close to my heart. Huge. I love that. So
it's huge. It is not an easy job. It takes a special person who has the patience and the empathy.
Yeah.
And I applaud them for being able to do it.
Quite a good bit of time in life skills and special education classrooms and with stuff. And yeah, it's rough, and it takes people that really are dedicated to it.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think that it's important for people when they're choosing a teaching career that it's got to be the right person for the right age group for the right situation. I think, and it really takes someone with a special heart. Not only, empathy and patience, but a special heart to be able to do that.
Yeah. And then, so she's settling in here, this kind of new normal, what's going on. I was like, the horror movie you're in is called Night Swim. Why are you swimming at night, Eve? What are you doing?
She was actually the first one that saw something strange. It was her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this goes, it's like the pool was showing people things that were like visions of the future to come. The first thing she sees really like what gets taken over. Because if we go back to the beginning, the little girl Rebecca sees her mother when she's under the water, and that's who the pool had overtaken at that point.
Yeah.
In that time. And so here, the first thing that Eve sees is this like kind of ghostly, evil, black water leaking out of his eyes, Ray standing at the edge of the pool, foreshadowing things way in advance that like that's where it's going. It already had him as its target.
Yeah. That it's interesting that you point that out. That it was that foreshadowing of what was to come. Yeah.
Yeah. And then with like the lights flickering and stuff in the pool. Was it just me? It gave very strong Stranger Things season 1 vibes, if you know what I'm talking about.
It did. It did. Like, this has this vibe. It has an old, like, 80s vibe, like horror movie vibe. Not the whole thing, but there were parts of it that I was like, wow, they really went a little retro in a couple of spots.
Yeah. And then based off of what she saw there, and then based off of what Elliot tells her that he sees, there's this like voice in the back of her head that's constantly kind of picking at her like something's wrong. Those mama instincts kind of kicking in on things, to where when Ray's just like, yeah, we'll invite all the kids and all the parents and everybody over, and it's gonna be, because she's like, oh, we'll have like a big get together and like a cookout, and then he's like, yeah, pool party, and you can see her be like, no, I didn't mean for that. Like, she, like, immediately you see, once the pool's involved, something inside her kind of cringes and twitches at that. Like, I don't know about that. It ends up happening, and we see it's not a great idea.
No. I really thought someone was going to drown in the pool. Mm-hmm. So I was relieved when they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, almost.
Yeah. But it was subtle how you notice the things with Ray, like, over time. Mm-hmm. Because it didn't seem to be an issue, and then it did. Like, it just took time. You didn't notice it. It was very subtle and quiet.
And with Eve, again, like, she spends a lot of that time just not really trusting that pool. There's something off, even if it's subconscious. You know, we're at the party, and she's talking to Kay, the realtor, and she's chopping that watermelon, and then she hears this kid yelling. And you just see her, the way she looks up, and her eyes, like this, like quick moment of panic. Like, she's like, I knew it. Here it goes. Like, it's time. And then, I mean, it's just this kid out here enjoying himself, having a fun time. But like, in her head, she's like ready for something. She knew it was like, yep, I knew it. I knew it was something. We even see like the shakiness. I thought it was a really cool like choice that she continues chopping the watermelon, but it's not the fine lines anymore. It's like all jagged and like uneven after that. I thought it was just a cool little like director's choice. Like, you can see physically like something is wrong because she's not focused on the way she's cutting the watermelon. It's little details like that I think are really cool.
Yeah, Eve at that time too learned some real interesting things that she ended up having to go and research further.
Yeah,
because
again, that realtor was interesting. Kay, she was also real freaky, just in a different way. Well,
I mean, she did bring that very special rum jiggly cake.
I know
that's not for children.
Because that's what she brought it to. So it's like, because it gets her husband into his little black Speedo.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's
an interesting
great
character. But yeah, she reveals the tragedy of the pool and what had happened with the Summer family, which she just mentions the little girl, and it was because of what Elliot had told her. She has this thought to ask, was her name Rebecca? Which is like, how did you know that? Which is like, ooh, spooky.
Yeah, back when poor Elliot was talking to Pennywise in the pool vent, I thought that right away. Like, he was going over there to get something out of the vent, and all like, oh my God, it's Pennywise. Here we go. It's not even it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then everything that happens at the pool party definitely sets things off. She's like, yeah, okay, things are really wrong. That's not like Ray. There's something wrong. And then, of course, she's talking to the coach and to Ty's parents, which I think she does a good job. They don't press charges, and she makes a good point. She's like, well, it attacks his nervous system. So, sometimes, like, he didn't mean to do that. I don't think she believed that. She knew something was wrong, but it was a good point. Like, she's like, it makes sense, and you can get through to them. Although obviously I can see why they're still bothered and very much like, don't talk to me never again.
We don't exist to you. We're
right.
No.
Which, again, don't blame him. The bruises on Ty's thighs were brutal.
Yeah, that was
the way he
pretty
gripping.
telling.
Also, after I made that note, I felt like that would be a really good name for a chicken restaurant. Ty's Thighs. And I was like, yeah, I could work with that. Ooh, and then you do like a curry one, and then it's Ty's Thigh.
Peg, only you would come up with this.
Yeah.
If you need a name for your restaurant, just talk to Peg. He'll
like
come
a
up with something.
fried curry chicken is Ty's Thai Thighs. There we go. Anyway, yeah, so talk about Eve, kind of this obsession of her own now, where she's looking for answers. She's at work, and she's like, just hanging up the phone, like, I don't want to talk to people and their problems and do my job. I've got to do research and figure out what's going on.
Yes, exactly.
And then it's not just Rebecca. There's other people who have lived there over the years that have gone missing, and it's all this very mysterious thing and what's going on. And it leads to the very classic horror trope of tracking down a past survivor and or their family and getting these foreboding answers and clues from it. Very big trope and a lot of different things. But it's fun.
That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rebecca's mother had a fountain in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to wonder, does it have water from the pool in it?
Probably. I think so.
Because it was acting really weird at different times. Mm-hmm. And so you can just tell that very much like what happened with Ray, Mrs. Summers fell into the water or something. Mm-hmm. She's the one that got connected. And I think she used it to save her son.
Yeah.
And that was her choice. Like, I'm going to save my son, which means my daughter is going to be sacrificed. And she didn't seem to be bothered by it. And I'm just like, that seems a little strange to me. I can't imagine. Because when you look at Ray and Eve's family, you can see and know right away that they wouldn't be okay with any of that. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not something that they would have signed up for. But I feel like the entity takes from you and then expects you to pay later.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give you this spray tan, but, oh yeah, now you can give me $40. But you never told them they had to pay up front. Like, It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's kind of what it does with Ray. It's like, I'm giving you your health back, your strength back. You just gotta gimme.
Gimme more.
Gimme the boy.
Oh my gosh. We want the boy. Yeah. Oh my God. I'll never forget where I was watching that at night in a dark room. Mm-hmm. And it freaked the crap out of me. Oh, and still it freaks me out. Mm-hmm. But in this case, we're dealing with the Temagami, which is, yeah,
a little different. Yeah, and I mean, it gets what it wants. Which Eve, I'll say, smart thinking, I guess, with the hose for air, and she's going into the abyss after her son. I feel like in that position, that's like the parent, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because you look at that, it's like, that's an alternate dimension, basically.
Yes, it is.
It's like, there's no hope. You wouldn't expect, like, there's no way you're going to find him. There's no way he's going to live. But she goes for it anyway, because
it's a mother's love.
It's like, if she dies trying to save him, so be it, because she's going to do what she has to do. Whether it's a 1% chance or less or not, it's like, and I admire that. She's like, going for it. This is what I'm going to do. And then down in the abyss, she finds him, grabs, and then like all these like past victims and sacrifices are down there in the pool. It was, again, I mentioned Stranger Things as the vibe here. I got a very different vibe. I wonder if you picked up on the same. Made me think of very Insidious.
Yes.
Down there. It was, even the music, it had this very kind of like shrill kind of Like that was, and I was like, okay, we're in the further now.
It did give me that vibe so
except,
much.
It wasn't the further, it was, we don't really have a name, the deeper. I call it the deeper.
The deeper, yeah.
That's kind of what it was.
Not a place Pake wants to go visit.
No, not at all.
It's a claustrophobic vibe, I think.
But even to the point of similar to like Insidious and the Further, where they have Rebecca there. There's something, an entity that's also there that is helpful and benevolent and willing to guide our characters out. We've covered some of the Insidious stuff. I'm not going to spoil it by naming exact characters that it like lines up with and stuff. But for those who haven't watched it, but yeah, I mean, that was kind of Rebecca was that character where they're in there and there's these like spirits who have just been over time taken over and all these things, but like she's still the pure one there that saves them. Yeah,
she makes them realize they're going the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Basically. Pointing towards the red door. I mean the top of the pool.
Yeah, I got major Insidious vibes from that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anything I think when a parent is going into a darker place to rescue their child, it takes me to Insidious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Usually.
Yeah, and then just the ending with the video from Ray and kind of the aftermath of the family. It was actually really emotional. It got me.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned it a little bit, at least hinted at it, is the Wallers there deciding to stay and live at that house. They could move on, but they stay, but then they get rid of the pool. They have it destroyed and covered and buried and, just as long as we're here and we keep watch over that, then we're saving a future family from this same disaster. And
they even said that's what our dad would, that's what Dad would want. He wouldn't want us to let another family succumb to this evil pool. He doesn't want anyone, or he wouldn't want anyone to fall victim to it. So
yeah,
I think that brings us to the kids.
All right. I've got some stuff.
I've got a few things.
Mention things. With Izzy's storyline, that kind of it's a small thing, but this thing with Ronan, her boyfriend, the hot Christian swimmer. That's a new trope that I haven't seen before. Can we turn that into a trope? Can that be just from years on? Be like, the horror movies. You have the stoner kid, the virgin, hot blonde virgin. Yep. And the hot Christian swimmer. That needs to be a trope that we have.
I think so too. Can we make it that way? Right. Maybe yes. Pake, we can find a way to incorporate it into every movie we talk about going forward. We will just designate a
who's the hot Christian swimmer in this movie?
Exactly. We will designate a character as that. We will do it.
And then I talked about Elliot as far as like, it was very subtle, but I read into it pretty early on. Like, even like when he's the first day going to school, he's like, well, Dad said I'm hitting my growth spurt. And it's like, and then he's like, I'm going to come to your practice. And he's like, oh, great. Yay. He
was happy to have his mom there.
Yeah.
Like, and Ray even said, you need to come to practice because he does better when you're there.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he's got this bigger bond with his mother because his dad wasn't there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one thing about Izzy when they're swimming and playing Marco Polo, and she's playing with the entity, only she doesn't realize it. I just wanted him to write on his hand, not Ronan, and hold it up.
That's great. Yeah, no, that scene was the one that I really applied the note, a big old pool full of nope to.
Yeah.
There was just like, no, thanks. The Marco Polo thing was really creepy. Especially, it's just like, she kind of snarky a little bit. She's like, Ronan, you're dead. And I was like, well, it's not Ronan, but the dead part you totally nailed.
Yep.
And then it was weird because it was like this dimensional change. Because I guess she went into the deeper, if I'm calling it that, but was able to kind of come back. It wasn't because she's not the sacrifice it wanted.
Right.
It was kind of testing out the different people, and then it like clung to Elliot for whatever reason. But to her,
probably sensed the sadness.
Yeah.
It probably sensed the the feelings of insecurity that he felt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But to her, to Izzy, it was like Ronan left and then was replaced by this horrible figure, and it went on for, 5, 10, 15 minutes. When to Ronan, when she comes back up after everything in a panic, he's like, you were underwater for a few seconds. What happened? Like, it's almost this interdimensional thing where it plays with time and space, and it really gets in people's heads.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it shows you what it thinks you want to see. Really?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of... I can't think of the terminology that I want at this time, but I've seen this type of thing in films where the entity or the evil gives you or shows you, oh, I know what it is, the Amityville Horror.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar. There were a lot of tropes, I think, in this movie that relate to other things.
Yeah. Just always great.
Not in a bad way. Just
yeah.
Yeah.
I like those things.
Yeah.
And then again, as I mentioned, this one, and a lot of it is with the kids, is this like the tense where I'm like, okay, I know like, with Elliot, where he meets Rebecca and things. Because again, I already have this fear of like underwater, and then when kids are involved, the anxiety is heightened, and so it's just so much tension where I'm just watching Elliot follow the breadcrumb trail of coins deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm like, stop. What are you doing?
That's Hansel and Gretel. Yep.
I know. I'm like, stop. And then I'm like, did you not hear your dad tell you stay in the shallow? And boy, you're going to give me an aneurysm. I don't like.
Oh, these poor characters have
turn around and swim back.
They have no idea what they're doing to Pake. They have no idea what stress they're putting him through when he's watching this movie. Mm-hmm. And again, I have to point out, you picked this one, so you signed yourself up for the extra stress.
Yeah, and then, even when he comes back up, and then Rebecca's calling from him, from the filter area, like you said, playing Pennywise, and then this creepy monster hand grabbing it. I'm like, no, thanks, I want none of that. Exactly none of that is what I want. And
well, he was doing what Pennywise would do. That's how he got Georgie to try to get his boat.
Yep.
It's just, again, it's all these little things that are like, oh, wow.
Yep. And then, just talking more about Elliot, we see at the baseball game, he's just sitting in his dad's shadow, just kind of covered there.
He doesn't have the opportunity to stand out, and it makes me wonder if maybe it would have been better for him to pick a different activity, one that didn't involve something his father was so good at.
Mm-hmm. But then again, I see that it's like, especially that age, like, he's proud of his dad, and he's, that's something where, I'm sure he enjoys baseball, and he's like, my dad is, Brewers' third baseman, Ray Waller, like, that's a lot of something to hold up to, but it's like, he's proud of that. I'm sure that's really cool, and he wants to be like dad, and wouldn't it be great if I could also play baseball in the majors and be like my dad, and like, because he's at that kind of impressionable place. So it's like he wants to make his dad proud, and so it's just hurting him even worse that he feels like he's failing at that.
Well, I think that's the way that it is with kids. I think they want to make their parents proud anyway, and it's just really difficult sometimes when you're not able to do that. Kids take things hard.
Yeah.
And maybe he did want to go on and be a baseball player and play in the majors and do things that his dad wasn't able to complete because of his illness.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? We talked about, the kids both having bad situations in there, and then them talking about it, and then again, kind of this little difference with them where Elliot's very much like, we have to tell mom and dad, and everything's wrong. We can't, the pool is evil. We gotta, he's the younger one who's just very much like, listen to me. Let's go with this. Them. And Izzy, as the older kid, is like, we don't want to upset the status quo. Dad's doing better. Like, on the surface, things are better. I'd rather just ignore it and pretend that it's nothing, because why rock the boat? Why continue to make a mess for ourselves. We're trying to avoid moving around and being stressed and being scared as a family. Like, we're already scared enough about Dad's sickness. We're already scared enough about this. Like, why add more to it?
Exactly. They were getting that time to be able to be a family, and they didn't want to lose that, and I totally get it.
Mm-hmm. So the pool cover coming back into play, of course, that was, it lures Elliot in, and then it's just kind of like, and then we're just going to cover the pool up and call it a day. Luckily, again, Eve and Izzy there, which leads to the last note, which is, I might still be cringing from Izzy falling on that glass for the rest of the day.
Uh-huh. You knew when that glass fell off that there was a reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of the Final Destination movies, because things like that will happen to get things rolling so that fate can intervene and right the world, I guess.
Yeah, which we haven't covered any of those. We should do that. But,
I know.
But yeah, watching the glass kind of move to the edge. But yeah, as soon as it hits the ground and shatters, and the way that glass shard is sticking up, it was the nail on the staircase in A Quiet Place, where you're like, well, that's coming back. Like, obviously.
Pain, it's going to hurt.
And and then as soon as she comes running back into the house, I thought she was going to step on it. But when she trips and goes, like, wrist first into it. Oh,
man.
I mean, literally, those are the kind of things that get that reaction. We were talking about Ready or Not earlier.
Yeah.
Again, slight spoilers. Like, there's the scene where, Samara Weaving's character
is climbing out of
has the hole shot through her hand and then has to stab it onto a nail to climb out of this thing.
Oh yeah.
I hate it so much. It's body horror is the thing that gets me the most. That's what makes me squirm. And so even something like that, where it's just her jamming her wrist onto this glass, that literally makes me scrunch up and turn away from my screen and go, no!
No. I take it back. Let's do a different movie. I don't want to talk about this one.
No.
Yeah, no. There are a lot of the kills in the Friday the 13th series that will probably make you squirm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a little known movie, unless you're just a big horror buff, but Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yes!
There's a scene from that movie that will haunt my brain for every second of the rest of my living days.
I think I know what one it is.
Yeah, you probably do.
It's not a pleasant one.
No, it's not at all in any way.
No. Should we cover that one?
I'd be down for it.
Oh my gosh. It is so gory, and the gratuitous violence is off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
But I really think we should cover it, because I think we could have some fun with it.
Yeah.
So I'll have to, covering it means you'd have to watch it again.
I would have to go through that scene again. And I have not watched it since the one time I've seen it years and years and years ago. And a lot of it is because I don't want to do that again. But, for this podcast, I'll do whatever I got to do.
I knew it.
The sacrifices I'll make for this podcast.
I know, you do.
While we're in the theme of sacrificing for the greater... For Run for Your Lives, I'll watch Hobo with a Shotgun.
All right. For the greater good?
Yeah. For the greater good.
Okay, there's a couple things I have to mention. The cat, I will admit, as soon as that cat appeared on screen, I went to doesthedogdie.com to find out, because I don't like pets getting killed in movies. It makes me upset. So I was able to watch it knowing, and that helped.
It was off screen, at least.
Yes.
So it's... Yeah, I mean, the cat didn't have a good end, unfortunately, because of it, but I agree with the cat the moment before it was gone was, fuck that boat. The cat agreed with me. Cider.
Exactly. Yes, Cider. That's an interesting name for a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not church.
No. So, the school that the kids attended was named Harold Holt. Well, Holt was an Australian prime minister who was an avid swimmer, and he disappeared and is presumably dead while swimming in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, that's kind of creative.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about the short film. Rod Blackhurst directed the short film. And in 2018, he and Bryce McGuire sold it so that a bigger film could be made. And it's basically about a woman terrorized in her pool by an evil spirit. Yeah. They took a lot from just that one piece. Like, they built a lot of story off it.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember to share the link to the short film so people can see it.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I have a few other little notes. The Temagami, the spirit, and some of the stuff. I mean, opening of the movie, flashback, 92. It's a little girl named Rebecca, with the boat and all of that. But yeah, I was going to point out, I'm surprised. Because I mentioned, I think before we started recording, there's a Sweet Tooth connection, and you're like, no, I don't know. How did you not? So the girl who plays Rebecca there is played by Ayazan. Very, like an indigenous name, she goes by her first name, but she played Nuka in the final season, season 3 of Sweet Tooth.
That is how different she looks.
Yeah.
And she looks more grown up in this movie. Oh my gosh.
She probably filmed Sweet Tooth first, honestly, the way that they film stuff.
Nuka, one of the best characters on Sweet Tooth
That's
season. That's
kind of one of the reasons I wanted to cover this movie, is because she was in it. Because I was like, oh, the Sweet Tooth connection. I was like, just saw her as her character there, and she was awesome. So I was like, yeah.
She wasn't in this one enough.
Not as much, but she did have a very pivotal role there at the end, like we talked about. So
she did. Yeah.
That's who that was. I was surprised you didn't pick up on that.
I'm surprised I didn't either, but she didn't have fox ears, and she definitely didn't have the bright blue eyes.
Yeah.
And she wasn't wearing a whole lot of Arctic gear.
Yeah.
Big difference.
I'm trying to think. I've got some other notes, but I think we've covered most of them. Just kind of what this thing was. Because a lot of my notes, because I do that just on first watch, so some of it's just me speculating on what's going to happen, and then those aren't as interesting. Although, like, have this, Miss Summers wanted her son Thomas to be healthy, and she got that at the sacrifice of Rebecca that she willingly participated in. And then I was trying to see, I felt like it probably was Elliot, but I was like, it could go in a lot of different ways. Because then I was like, I could make a case for which family member the pool would want Ray to sacrifice. What's it going to ask for in return, or who? And I said, is it going to ask for the wife who's trying to stop the whole situation? The daughter who has this light rebellious streak, or the son who's not quite living up to the image maybe he would have expected. There's...
Yeah. It's hard to figure out. I mean, it looks for maybe the weakest link.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's easiest. Sure, that's easiest for entities.
The one that usually, you can most justify.
Yeah. The easy one.
Mm-hmm. Again, something great about horror movies is that they're able to make you scared of everyday things and occurrences, at least for a little bit. And so I'll give props to this one for making water scary. And not, like, just deep water or murky water, like a lot of things do, but just the concept of water in general, when just a glass of clear water on a table makes you go, ugh.
Yep.
Or like when Elliot's looking at it and it's rippling or whatever. It's like, just water is scary now. Thanks, movie. Well,
because they learned that the water is actually from some spring. Mm-hmm. It's not like piped in or brought in by a truck, like a lot of pools are filled by a truck. Yeah. This one was filled by a spring, which is probably where their water and everything else came from. So it was all connected.
Yeah. And then last things was just like some interesting characters, which I mentioned the realtor. We see the pool tech guy for just like one scene. He was a weirdo. He was fun. And then just another hopefully, he went through some trauma, but hopefully he'll be okay. I liked the character of Ty. I liked that kid. He seemed like very talented yet kind. Because the first thing I noticed, because he's like, oh, it's the coach's son, and he's clearly like the star athlete on the team. And the first thing first interaction with Elliot was like, oh, good luck and good job. He's very
complimentary and supportive. Yeah.
Kid's got a good heart. I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Oh my gosh. I think we got through the whole thing.
Did.
There were a lot of tropes in this from different movies that took me back to different things. So
Oh yeah.
I'm happy with our coverage today. I think that we got it. I think we nailed it.
Yeah. A lot of like connections and references and tropes, like you said, but nothing bad. It was just I like when things can make me think of other stuff, especially stuff that like we've covered or talked about. Where I'm like,
yeah,
oh man,
it brings it back.
It's like whenever I'm able to tie in, you know, Ready or Not and A Quiet Place and Insidious into this and be like, yeah, like it's pretty great.
It's great. Yeah. Think of future movies where we'll continue to do that.
I mean, I guess I won't know until after I've watched them, so we'll just have to... I guess, as this podcast says, well, I guess we'll just have to watch movies. I guess we'll have to keep doing more movies.
Yep, it's what
I'm
we
okay
do.
with that. Yeah. And there goes the feedback phone, so see maybe if we have some listeners who check this out and see what they had to say. All right, we do got a little bit of feedback this week. Always good to hear from some peeps. I'll go ahead and take the first one, of course, coming from Sam, who says, well, if it isn't my childhood fear of being dragged to the bottom of a pool by a monster being made into a movie. I enjoyed the movie well enough. I wouldn't watch it again, though. It seemed like a lot went into the film. I think the story just thinned out and the plot was predictable. Looking forward to the coverage and hearing what you guys think.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, that is totally valid and fair thought. I think we kind of shared some of the same sentiment. Maybe. I don't remember. Again, we feedback is recorded like a few weeks after we've actually talked about the movie for those who want to be in the know on that. So I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember if we... But yeah, I feel like we definitely stated it was like it was a fine movie, but it wasn't like the biggest hit or success that Blumhouse has given to us lately. But all in all, was fine and was perfectly good movie to watch.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with the underwater part just makes me feel claustrophobic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, bothers me. Well, Catherine, hello, Catherine. Thank you for coming every week and bringing the feedback for us. Here's what Catherine had to say. Keep going back and forth on my overall feeling about Night Swim. I enjoyed all of the camera work, especially the baseball breaking and the underwater scenes. There were a few good jump scares, and I was tense the entire time, thinking no one was safe after Rebecca Summers and Cider the cat. But not all of the effects on the water demon worked for me. The bulging eyes made me chuckle, and I immediately thought of the bloated well walker on Herschel's farm. I liked the pool's backstory, but I thought it was over-explained and a bit predictable. Night Swim felt a lot like Amityville Horror, but I didn't care for the family nearly as much. I definitely enjoyed Night Swim overall, but not sure if there's much to gain from a rewatch. Other than the demon scenes, I'd love to just watch those again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good, thanks.
I got the Amityville Horror vibes, too, from that. And that's also a movie that we should cover. Peg, have you seen that?
I have not.
Excellent.
Surprise, surprise.
So we will definitely be adding that because they did a remake of it. So we could do it as a double dip, maybe.
Could, maybe. Been a little while since we did that.
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, Alma wrote in to say, I remember watching the trailer for this movie and being excited for it because it looked scary. Then I actually watched it in the theater and was very disappointed. It just was not scary. I might or might not rewatch it for the podcast.
Well, we appreciate you sending in feedback.
Absolutely. And you don't need to watch or rewatch. It's completely up to you. As long as you're tuning into the podcast, then we appreciate that.
Exactly. Well, if you'd like to submit feedback like Alma, Catherine, or Sam, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast. You can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Yes, YouTube now has this cool podcast feature there. I no longer have to make videos anymore. It just automatically uploads like a static picture with it to YouTube. So it's great. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need. And if you feel so inclined, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We do indeed. And of course, speaking about sharing the love, got to give some shout outs to the things going on in the Podcastica universe around us. The cast of us continuing their Walking Dead rewatch. Jason and Lucy covering season 3, episode 7, When the Dead Come Knocking, this week. So you can check that out as they continue that rewatch. Speaking of rewatches, of course, the Revisited podcast with Ben and Kristen getting close to wrapping up their coverage of Ted Lasso. They are in season 3, episode 11. Mom City is out now, and they will be recording. They're taking feedback right now for the series finale, season 3, episode 12. So get that in. I think there might still be time whenever you listen to this as it goes live. So, yeah, get that in if you're checking that out, and finish up Ted Lasso with them, and then they'll get started on The Good Place after that. So stay tuned with Revisited.
They're planning to record on Monday the 19th. So as long as you get it in before Monday morning, I think you're good. So make sure that you do that if you want to. I feel like I need to say something about it. That show is just one that I came to late, and it was just amazing. It's everything I needed during the pandemic. Like, it just brought joy.
Yeah. So go give some Ted Lasso love over to Ben and Kristen on Revisited. And then you can also check out Peter and Lucy on their Let It Rip podcast, The Bear Cast. They are covering season 3 of The Bear. This week they released season 3, episode 7 and 8. The episode titles Legacy and Ice Chips. Yeah, both of those great episodes for different reasons. I'm not going to give anything away, but Ice Chips definitely, I think, might be another one of those Emmy nomination bait kind of episodes. We're getting an incredible performance by a certain incredible actress that I'm not going to name because I'm not going to spoil it, but you need to watch it. It's so good. And they've been doing a great job covering The Bear. Been loving listening along to Lucy and Peter every week, so definitely go check that out. Also, Cobra Kai cast with Jason, Richard, and Rima. They've got Underdogs, which is season 6, episode 4. Out this week, and then they will be recording soon for the first mid-season finale. It's a 3-parter, so this is the last one that's available right now. It'll be episode 5 of season 6, the final season. I think it's The Best of the Best, I think is the name of that episode. I haven't watched it yet, but I will soon, and then check it out along with them. Yeah, they've been doing a great job covering that. It's the final season of Cobra Kai, and it's been fantastic so far. Their coverage has really been spicing it up even more, so definitely check that out. Dragon Cast has come to an end for another season, as House of the Dragon Season 2 is done. What an incredible season, what an incredible show, and Wendy, Rennie, and Veronica have done an incredible job covering it the whole season with a couple of guest hosts coming in and out of that. So definitely go check out their coverage of the season finale. A lot of great stuff to talk about in that one, and they did an incredible job, as always. So make sure to go get that some love. And then also, What Is From, the podcast for the show From over on MGM Plus with Alex and Lizzie. Make sure to stay tuned with that. They're still kind of throwing out some rewatch episodes here and there. I think they've got one up recently, but season 3 is just right around the corner, coming back in September. So I know once the new episodes start dropping, they will be on that and releasing those and talking about the new season, which I'm so excited to start watching and listening along once that happens. Such a good show. Again, the best show that nobody's watching and people need to get on. It's so underrated and it's so good though. So check out From.
Yeah, you really have to watch it.
Yeah. And then outside of Podcastica, of course, we always give some love to our friends over at TV Podcast Industries. No new episode over there, but we wanted to definitely give them a special shout out because those of you who maybe follow the hosts over there at TV Podcast Industries, Derek and John, they've been together as partners for a while, and just this last week, they got married officially, and that's incredible. Congrats so much to you guys. That's awesome. So much love to Derek and John on your marriage and everything going forward. Yeah, it's awesome. It's about time, fellas.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Been waiting. Yeah, so congrats.
Excited for them.
Want to give them some love. Love you guys so much. And yeah, love it. And then if you want to hear more of me and Daphne with our friends Jeff and Jerry, you can always check out the Buffalo podcast. We're still going crazy with that one every week. Just playing games, hanging out, talking, goofing, driving Daphne crazy. You know, just all the things we do over there. 30-minute quick episodes where you can just hear us making each other laugh or making Daphne question her friendship with us on a weekly basis. You know, we do what we do.
Yes. Yes. Doing what they love to do, which is drive me crazy. Yes. That happens in every episode. You can get it's guaranteed.
It's just kind of a mini game that we play ourselves, is who can just like drive you the most crazy. The ultimate goal is who gets who wins the podcast is who makes Daphne finally snap. That's
And they do push very hard every episode. And sometimes I strike back in ways that are a lot of fun, and I can even make them laugh sometimes.
Yeah. So definitely if you want to get a good laugh or just kind of commiserate with Daphne over there, go check it out. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, but other than that, you can always come back here next week to Run for Your Lives. We'll have something fresh and fun for you. Daphne, what are we doing next week?
Well, next week we are actually looking back at all of our episodes again. You know that we've done these great episodes that talk about our favorite characters. By season, we have now our Riffle Awards. What if we went back and looked at all the films we've talked about and picked the worst ones?
Yeah, kind of a Riffle Razzies.
Yeah. And it is something for us to do that. To be able to go back and think about each movie and just decide, yeah, that's definitely it. For me, it wasn't that hard. I knew exactly which one was at the top of the list.
Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely covered some stinkers in the past, so definitely some movies we talk about. But even when it's a bad movie, we try not to shy away from covering it because it still leads to a fun episode most of the time. So we can at least go back and look at the movies and characters that just boggled our minds and drove us crazy and made us question, why are we doing this? But it's always fun in the end. So yeah, definitely check that out next week. And also for feedback, we'd love to hear from you guys. You be honest. Don't tell us what your least favorite episodes are. Our egos can't handle that.
No, they can't.
Every episode is a perfect, beautiful little baby angel, and we're the best podcast in the world. But if you want to tell us what the movies that you thought were the worst and the characters that you thought were the worst in those movies, yeah, definitely give us your feedback on that. We'd love to hear what you guys think.
Yes, please, because there's so many. And by worst character, we're talking about waste of space.
Yeah, not necessarily like villains that are so bad you hate them, but they're so you're so bad that they're good. You love to hate them. Not necessarily that, but just more characters that are like, why is this character even in this movie?
Yeah. Basically, it's dumb. Like, is this dumb? That was my criteria. One of my criteria for it was, it's dumb. He's dumb. She's dumb. No. There's no need for this. So yeah, that brings us to the end of our episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.